Last week, I read an article on Jacinta Allen's announcement that contraceptive pill will be prescription-free for women over the 18 that are taking it for the first time. And I thought that this would be a good discussion to have on YouTube, as the article only mentioned the Premier and the Health Minister, a GP from the RACGP, and a pharmacist. It didn't actually include any women who would use the scheme or who actually take contraception. So I want this to be a discussion. I'm going to talk about the article and bring up my thoughts and try and be as accurate and factual as I can be. And I want you in the comments to tell me what you think, whether you agree with the RACGPs, agree with the scheme, as women should be involved in this discussion. I've taken some notes, as I seem to always do, and I'm going to go through what the article spoke about, as well as putting in my own thoughts, which I know I mentioned before, but anyway. This falls under the Chemist Care Now scheme and allows women to have reduced costs, as they won't have to go to a GP clinic to pay for a consultation and prescription and then pay for the contraception. They will just have to walk into a pharmacy, speak to a pharmacist, and walk out only paying for the contraception. And I think that this is a good idea, as we know GP consultations can be quite expensive, and even with the bulk build incentive that was announced sometime last year in November, after the launch, only 622 metropolitan GP clinics out of 4,720 had reintroduced bulk billing. The RACGP don't agree with this announcement, saying that it undermines established safeguards and TGA assessments, and the TGA recently did a review on contraceptive care and found that it should only be prescribed by a practitioner, aka a doctor. The reason why GPs are against this proposal is because during their consultation, they discuss other things outside of just contraception. They discuss STIs, consent, and intimate partner violence and relationships, and at the same time, other contraceptives that are available to these women, including long-lasting ones like the rod or the IUD. GPs want to push long-acting contraception because, according to them, half of the abortions in Victoria are due to failing pills. The reason why GPs still want to consult patients before they give them a prescription for the pill is due to the amount of risks that come with taking the pill, and this includes high blood pressure, body mass index, liver disease, migraine disorders, and risks of developing deep vein thrombosis. And to really understand the amount of risks that come with taking the pill, here I have my own information sheet from my own contraceptive pill, and I wanted to take you through the side effects. If you notice any of the following side effects and they worry you, go tell your doctor or pharmacist. Nausea and vomiting, stomach pain together with bleeding irregularities, including more frequent, less frequent, or no bleeding, headache, including migraines, dizziness, mood changes, including depression, breast tenderness or pain. If you experience any of the following, tell your doctor or go to the emergency department at your nearest hospital. Pain in the chest, arm, or below the breastbone, discomfort radiating from the back, breathlessness and or difficulty breathing, swelling, pain or tenderness in one leg, sudden weakness, numbness or bad pins and needles on the face, arm or leg, especially on one side of the body, sudden trouble walking, dizziness, loss of balance or coordination, severe sudden stomach pains, a fainting attack or you collapse, unusual headaches or migraines that are worse than usual, sudden problems with speech, understanding or eyesight. So you can understand the reason why these GPs are trying to push for the contraceptive pill to remain on a prescription, so they can ensure that their patients are being safe and are not at risk of these types of things. I myself don't actually go and see a GP for my contraceptive. I actually use an online prescription service that allows me to have my contraception delivered to my door without me having to even think about it. And yeah, this system is great. It's less costly than seeing a GP. I spend, I think, $50 every 2 or 3 months. And it's great instead of spending over $100 to go see my GP. But is this something that I would recommend for everyone? No. if you are new to taking contraception, or if you are someone where doctors have found that you are at high risk of developing some of the side effects that I mentioned before, then I don't think you should be on this online service. There is no proper consultation. You speak to a doctor once yearly over the phone, and if you say that you have no issues, then that's it. Jacinta Allen and the Health Minister mentioned how that this would be a way to reduce costs for women. But I also think that this would also help reduce the stigma and help increase women's access to contraception, as there is still reportedly a stigma on reproductive health towards women. Their pain's not taken seriously, their social norms, cultural expectations, or fear of judgments make women feel that their sexual health is taboo or shameful, and they choose not to visit a GP because they are just not treated the way that they should be. I have even had experience myself going to a women's clinic of all places when I was about 18, 19 years old. When I went there to go, hey, I want a prescription for this pill that I'm on, she coerced me into taking a new kind of pill. I kept denying, but she wrote a script for me anyway. And when I took that new pill, I actually broke out in hives and went to a different doctor to get back on my old prescription and never went back to that GP clinic. And that is what women are experiencing. Most of the time, it does come from male GPs who just don't understand women's reproductive health and think we're all being silly and overdramatic. But it was crazy that it happened to me at a women's clinic. Like, it happens anywhere, and it can happen to anyone. It makes sense to have a scheme available for women to go and not feel judged and be able to afford the care and not feel like they haven't been heard, and they'll be able to walk away with exactly what they want. Another group of women that I was thinking of are the young teenagers, the 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are wanting to go on contraception for the first time because they've started being sexually active outside of high school, but don't want their parents to know and can't afford to see a GP or use their Medicare card because their parents will find out as they're on a family card. And to me, I'm like, what would you prefer? Women being unable to go to a GP and get the prescription because they don't want their parents finding out and they can't afford it otherwise, or women going to a pharmacy and being able to start participating in safe sex and even further reducing the amount of abortions or teen pregnancies that we have in Victoria. And GPs are saying that this is no good and that practitioners should be the only ones to prescribe. Well, according to the article, pharmacists must complete a postgrad training module and will still work with local GPs to figure out the best possible contraception for their patients. Because of this module, I actually think that pharmacists will end up doing very similar consultations like the GPs when it comes to talking about STIs, safe sex, intimate partner violence, using different contraceptions like long-acting contraceptions instead of the pill. I think that would all be discussed with the pharmacist. I also think getting the pill from the pharmacist shouldn't stop women from seeing their GP if they notice any changes, and I think the pharmacist would be the first ones to say, if you notice any of these changes, go and visit your GP, because the effects of the pill are so serious that from a medical and legal and ethical standpoint, they would have to say something along those lines. They wouldn't be able to give women these pills and let them walk away thinking that they're completely risk-free. So that's all the article really went over. It didn't really talk about women's experience, or it didn't talk about what other women think. And so I am just going to jump in and put in some more of my own thoughts to sort of summarize this. I think the scheme is a really good idea. I think it's a chance for women to access the pill in a way that we haven't been able to access it before. I think it will help reduce stigma and judgment towards women who are seeking contraception and seeking ways to participate in safe sex. But I also think that there needs to be a lot of training done with these pharmacists to make sure that they are taking every single step that a GP would in their consultations. There has to be discussions on side effects, and there has to be discussions on risk factors, and there has to be discussions on STIs, STDs, intimate partner violence, and other long-acting contraception options. But I think that this is a great start in making reproductive health in Victoria better for women. And I hope that when this scheme gets introduced, it helps so many young women find contraception. I'd really like to start a discussion below, as I think that this is an important topic. And as I mentioned at the start of this video, they didn't bring on any women in the article. They only brought on experts. And I don't think you can have a conversation about the contraceptive pill without talking to women who use contraception. Please tell me your thoughts below. I'm so interested to know. I really, really want to start this discussion. I think it's important for us to have. And I want to thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't and give this video a like, and I will catch you next week.